Xpeng, Nabu, Geely, Jakku, Zeekr. There are so many new car companies coming to Australia these days that you may not have noticed that two of those brands that I just mentioned are actually made-up planets from Star Wars. And this is another one, a new Chinese car brand, not a Star Wars reference. This is the Jakku J7. And you're probably asking, quite rightly, what the heck is a Jakku now? Well, don't worry, I'm here to tell you all about it and answer the question whether it should be on your next new car shopping list or banished to a galaxy far, far away. Before we get to the details, a little context is necessary. You see, Jakku is a spin-off of Chery, the Chinese brand that has already made a big impact with its affordable range of SUVs. But don't think of Jakku as the Lexus to Chery's Toyota. No, these two brands are much closer on price than a traditional mainstream and luxury duo. Instead, think of Jakku as a more premium offering than what Chery has, because it certainly doesn't have a premium price. The J7 range begins at just $34,990 drive away for the two-wheel drive Core. The all-wheel drive Ridge is just $42,990, and even the plug-in hybrid, dubbed SHS Summit, starts at just $47,990 drive away. Those prices take direct aim at the heart of the mid-size SUV market to try and tempt buyers away from the likes of the Toyota RAV4, Hyundai Tucson, and BYD Sea-Line 6. For context, the RAV4 Hybrid, which isn't a plug-in, is priced from around $42,000 up to $51,000, while the BYD, which is a plug-in, starts at $48,890. So Jakku clearly means business. For this review, we're going to focus on the SHS Summit because that's the variant we spent the most amount of time in as Jakku wanted to showcase its technology. Now, if you do want more details on the specifications of the J7 range and the pricing, make sure you read my in-depth written review at carsguide.com.au. Now, let's move on to design, and this is a little bit of a tricky subject because while there's definitely some unique and bold elements to the J7, it's also probably fair to say that the designers may have had a look at a Range Rover or two during its construction, because certainly from some angles, particularly sort of this side profile and the rear three-quarter, it does have, I'm going to be honest, you can mistake it from a Range Rover Evoque from a distance. It has that sort of classical, those lines that we've come to associate with Range Rover. However, having just had a crack at the design team, there's also clearly some very distinctive Jakku elements to it, like this grille, this waterfall-like grille as they call it. This is a signature design trait for Jakku models. And as you can see, there's a big, bold Jakku badge on the front. So you aren't going to mistake it from this angle. And look, overall, I actually do think it is a cohesive and, you know, it does have a sort of a premium-ish look to it. So I think they have done quite a nice job on the design overall. That design theme from the outside carries over to the interior, where there is a real obvious sort of cohesiveness to the design and a very much a more premium look and feel than what we've already seen in the Chery product. You know, you've got these twin digital screens that are giving you that high-tech look and feel, but overall, like, just the use of materials inside, you know, again, sort of just elevate the Jakku, you know, above what we've already come to expect with Chery. And, you know, frankly, I do think it looks quite nice and certainly, you know, a match for a lot of the cars at this price point. As for the practicality, well, for a SUV in this segment, this sort of mid-size SUV market, I think the J7 offers up good space. There's reasonable room front and back, so you'd get, you know, 4 adults in relative comfort. And then in terms of how the infotainment system works, well, you know, it gets hard to miss. You've got this 14.8-inch tablet basically in the center. There are no physical buttons. It is all digital for the HVAC and the you know, all the infotainment settings. You've got a couple of physical buttons here for things like unlocking the doors and hazards and changing EV modes. But generally speaking, everything is controlled through this central panel. You've got a little assistant. Hello.
You are welcome.
Super friendly. It's effectively a small computer on the dashboard, which has its pros and cons, but you know, the actual usability that it offers is pretty impressive. Now, one noticeable difference between the hybrid and the rest of the J7 range is this center console. It's actually you've got a different center console box. You've got the gear selector down here rather than up here on the indicator stalk, effectively. It's actually quite a significant change for what is effectively the same model. So it's interesting, from a practicality point of view, how, they're able to take advantage of the hybrid system to free up a bit more room in here for more practicality, on a day-to-day basis. The boot of the plug-in hybrid model is on the smaller side for an SUV of this size, measuring up to 500 litres, and that looks a bit average when compared to the 542 litres offered by the RAV4 and the even larger 574 litres in the C-Line 6. And that's also a little disappointing when you factor in the lack of a spare. There's only a temporary repair kit under the floor. Under the bonnet, the J7 has a choice of two powertrains across the range. The two-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive are powered by the same 1.6-litre turbocharged four-cylinder petrol engine that makes 137 kilowatts and 275 newton meters, and it's paired to a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, with the only major difference being the driving wheels. SHS stands for Super Hybrid System, which is Jayco's branding for what is becoming an increasingly common technology these days, the plug-in hybrid. So the SHS combines a 105 kilowatt, 1.5 litre four-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine with a 150 kilowatt electric motor and a single-speed transmission that drives the front wheels. The SHS is equipped with an 18.3 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery that provides a claimed 90 kilometres of electric-only driving range. It helps the J7 plug-in hybrid achieve a claimed fuel consumption figure of just 1.0 litres per 100 Ks. Now, Jayco claims the SHS has a theoretical driving range of 1,200 kilometres thanks to its 60-litre fuel tank. However, to achieve that economy, you need to run the J7 in its hybrid state, so somewhere closer to 1,000 Ks is more realistic, and only then if you've got a very light right foot. As for the petrol-only models, the two-wheel drive uses a claimed 7 litres per 100 Ks, and the all-wheel drive uses 7.8 litres per 100 Ks. So like I've said, Jayco is not trying to challenge, Lexus or BMW, but it is trying to offer an experience above what we've already had with Chery. And from a driving perspective, that's noticeable straight away. For starters, this super hybrid system, as I like to call it, performs quite well. It's got good performance. It's not what you call earth-shattering performance, but because it can run on electric, it's using that electric motor. It has good torque. It can pull quite strongly, so it does a very reasonable job of hauling along the J7. From a driving perspective, one area where I think Jayco and Chery, they can all improve is doing a bit more work on the ride and handling. I think the suspension, feels okay. It could certainly feel a lot better. The Australian roads are, not quite as smooth, shall we say, as what you'll find in China, where there's much more newer roads, and they therefore have tuned the car, I guess, for smoother conditions. Here, it does feel a little bit stiff. It lacks a bit of control over the bumps, so it's not the smoothest ride you'll have, but it's certainly not an uncomfortable, bouncy ride. It's fine. Same with the steering and just the overall handling. It's what it's fine for what it is. It's not trying to be particularly dynamic. It's relatively light steering, so it'll be easy to live with around town. So from that point of view, I think the J7 does, a reasonable job, of being a, more premium offering than what we've already had. There's no ANCAP score for the Jayco yet, but given Chery has managed to get 5-star ANCAP ratings for its more affordable models, despite some serious concerns that we have about the usability of its lane keeping assist, if the J7 misses a top score, it would be a surprise, as the company does tick the boxes that ANCAP likes ticked. What is really worth mentioning from a safety perspective, though, with the J7 is basically the active safety systems, those driver assistance systems that, again, we've experienced in the Chery. And if you have seen my Chery Tiggo 4 Pro review, you will know that I was not a fan of its lane keeping system, which felt very, very clumsy. This does not feel that clumsy. This certainly has a better, more advanced system. This is an example of Chery, Jayco learning quite quickly and adapting quite quickly to what the market wants. The other system that works quite well is the driver attention. So it's looking at you and your face and analyzing, basically, I mean, literally, it's analyzing where your eyes are actually looking at any particular moment in time. So if you do find yourself wandering off and maybe looking at navigation for too long, even through sunglasses, I noticed it was picking up where my attention was and notifying me. So I think that's another example of, frankly, a lot of these new Chinese car brands have been hit pretty hard over the head by us journalists and you, the consumer, by fairly clumsy active driving systems. There's driver assistance systems. And in this instance, I do think, based on this initial drive, the J7 is a step forward in that department. Obviously, look, I'd like to drive it for a bit longer, live with it for a bit longer, and see how it stacks up day to day in a more built-up traffic. But overall, I've got to give credit where credit is due, and Jayco has done a better job with that. So, again, that's, I guess, part of that more premium experience of what you get in a Jayco. The J7 will be covered by an 8-year warranty, as well as having 8 years of CapPro servicing and roadside assistance. The J7 will require annual servicings, but you can know right now that you'll be paying $3,372 to keep it maintained for those first 8 years. I got to say, after my initial drive of the J7, I've come away quite impressed. It's got good style, it's got loads of tech, it's got a very fuel-efficient powertrain, but its real selling point is going to be the price, because whether you're looking for a plug-in hybrid or just a regular hybrid, or frankly, even some normal combustion engined mid-size SUVs, this makes a very compelling value proposition. So I guess you could say mid-size SUV buyers have a new hope. I'll see myself out. But before I do, make sure you check out my in-depth written review at carsguide.com.au.